Okay, personally divest. Not exactly that, but if you just take the mindset that what we have is indistinguishable from magic, and you really value when you're going on an airplane ride or when you're going on a car ride and just appreciate it, and also make some choices. Like I've used so many fossil fuels in my life, it's not even funny. I don't use that money anymore, but what I really consciously do is if I've got a bunch of errands to do, I wait until I have 6 to do, and I go all in one day to do them. Little things like that, because if we don't personally I mean, again, I'm trying to get in that triangle. This is good for you as a person, and it's good for the local resilience because you're not as dependent on it, and it's good for the climate and keeping carbon in the ground. Choose your tribe. I think we are incredibly social creatures, and this is kind of what my workstation used to look like on Wall Street, and there was guys stacked up. The guy next to me makes $20,000 on a commission, and I made $3,000, and I felt like a total loser. And I think to surround yourself with people of your own values and things that you care about is very important. It's something that you can do. A friend of mine is in the audience here, Jim Patterson, told his daughter, because he's concerned about these issues, he said, "Sweetie, the train is running out of control and is driven by sociopaths. You cannot change that. What you can do is choose who's on the dining car with you." And I think not only telling your daughter that, but telling people in this crowd that it does make sense. You have a choice on who you can hang out with, and it makes a difference. I've spent almost all my money. I live on $45,000 a year now, and I've never been happier because I surround myself with people that care about the right things, and there's dynamic interaction with people like you that are learning about what's really important. So as long as I have enough money to pay the bills, I don't need any more. Be prosocial. There's an instinct, of course, when we hear about these risks to go the guns and gold route. And I think really the bug out place that we should be working on is Minnesota, not guns or gold in our basement. So we have to kind of, I kind of went that way for a while, and then I realized, man, if this all changes and goes down, what if I break my leg? We need a doctor, you need all kinds of things. So we're kind of like all in it together. And I think that's important. So finally, like yourself. And I think we have 2 paths, like I started this talk by saying, that there is an emergent property. We could have the dark path, which is the maximum power, where we just consume things to oblivion and take other species with us. But the other one is where we realize what our ancestral past shaped us. We realize the science and the morality of who we are and how we got here. And then we want to pass something, some emergent property of the good side of humanity forward. And I think this is kind of a graph I just made this afternoon. You can tell I was in a little bit of a rush. But the bottom is from left to right is time. Just say in the 1960s it started to now. And what you see is that political acceptance, the environmental crisis and economic cues, when they go up, a little bit later in time you get some political acceptance. But all the time, the more time that goes by, our energy and environmental situation deteriorates. So as individuals, we can decide to step in ahead of that trajectory. And I do think that we are facing really good and evil. And this is, there's this new thing where they see a Prius and they go by and they roll coal, it's called. And, I think, yeah, your reaction is the same as mine. This is kind of evil, I think. Partly ignorant, but partly evil. And this is the not evil. This is good. So I think liking yourself, the reason I brought this up is I occasionally wonder, in my hypnagogic state between sleeping and waking, what it would be like on my deathbed. And it inspires me because I don't want to waste my life. I want to like myself when I'm on my deathbed. But in order to like yourself when you die, you have to like yourself when you're alive. And so you have to work towards that. And for me, I am kind of like who I am. I will not stand for 10 billion humans and a lot of economic growth, but the ocean full of slimes and jellyfish and a lot of species dead in 30 years. That will not be a success. That would be horrific to me. So I really do think that the battle coming up could be between business and ecology. And I know we're going to be the underdogs, but I know which side I'm going to fight on. And I think, liking yourself could be the result of coherent life decisions based on something larger than yourself that has meaning. That is, you like yourself not because of some mental tricks, but because you actually no longer have dissonance with what you stand for versus what you are. And I think this concept of liking yourself, it's not really a shallow thing, but it's an emergent property due to being respectful in your own eyes by fairly tough, non-delusional standards. And I think deep strength that springs from self-respect and a core patriotism towards the world. And for me, these things on the left that shout loudly money and sex and food, now I get the same feelings from some of the things I attribute to the sacredness of nature, the sacredness of what we share the planet with when I was born, and that's going away. So I think, not to pick on Alan Greenspan, but I actually think what we value, what we need more now than intelligence is an alien perspective, to look at things slightly differently and not get caught up in all the same monkey trap that we're part of. So this is just a real quick example of how we might aspire to something different. This is a bowhead whale. They live over 200 years. We're spending all of our money trying to go to other planets and whatever, and there's species in the ocean that we don't even understand. So if I had a child, and I don't, I think I would want them, instead of wanting to build skyscrapers, to go research maybe a 250-year-old species. And getting very close to the end here, if someone's drowning, if you're the only one that knows how to swim, then you're on the call. So I do think that each of us can kind of breathe life into our parallel self and like that person. And if one of you in this room kind of manifests in sort of a eco-Jedi superhero, I will have done my job tonight. I've spoken way too long, so I'm going to skip this to the questions. In closing, when I was in my teens and 20s, I looked for things with more dopamine and more novelty. In my 20s and 30s, I looked for people with more money. In my 30s and early 40s, I looked for people with more knowledge. And now I'm trying to look for people that have higher values and standards. So there could be a great future in this place, different but great. Let's get started. I'm sorry it went so long, but what do I leave out? Next time I'll make it shorter.